and Johnny parlay with the facts. So relax, grab a drink, then let's kick back.
It's time to talk running backs on this week's fantasy installment of The Spread. I'm your host, Jim Cella, sitting here with Dash. Dash, we already know you're doing well, so we're going to skip that part. Let's just jump right into these running backs. Who do you think is the best couple running backs to play in fantasy football?
Tier 1, elite running backs, DeMarco Murray, Le'Veon Bell, Marshawn Lynch, Matt Forte, Giovanni Bernard, Jamal Charles, LaShawn McCoy, and Arian Foster.
Is Bernard still hurting? I know he's not hurt. He's still playing. But didn't he get drilled last week?
Yeah, he's playing, but he is playing hurt. Not injured, hurt.
Yeah, he's just beat up a little. I like Le'Veon Bell, of course. Everybody knew I was going to talk about Bell. You're probably all waiting for it already. He's the third best back in fantasy. Really, I mean, any Todd Haley back is going to be good fantasy-wise. Look what Jamal Charles was doing when Todd Haley was there. He loves to throw the ball to the running backs. Bell had 8 catches, I believe, last week.
8 for 88.
There's 8 points right there.
That's 16.
He usually and then he usually averages, 15, maybe 10 fantasy points, rushing the ball. And if he could ever actually get into the end zone, there's another 6 points. So Bell's going to be a pretty good play for you every week.
Yeah, a couple of these guys have tough matchups. I think Bell versus Indy is a tough matchup. Bernard has a very tough matchup versus Baltimore. And McCoy's going at Arizona, who lets up the least points to fantasy running backs. But it doesn't matter to me. I play all these guys. Tier 2, the must-starts right now, Ahmad Bradshaw. And Andre Ellington moved on to this list for me this week.
Ahmad Bradshaw is an interesting play. The Steelers' defense gives up a lot of points to fantasy running backs. Bradshaw is fifth in
fifth
fantasy?
best running back in
fifth.
fantasy.
Okay. Yeah, so that's just a great matchup. I mean, the Steelers' defense is soft right up the middle. Bradshaw likes to take the ball right up the middle, and that's just looking good for anybody who has Bradshaw, honestly.
Yeah, he has 6 touchdowns in the passing game, too.
Crazy.
So that's huge. Andre Ellington's been a beast, and ever since Carson Palmer came back, he looks even better. He has a great matchup this week versus Philly, so that's a shootout type game right there. He's a top 10 fantasy running back. You got to play this guy.
You got to respect the passing game a lot more with Carson Palmer back, so that's going to open things up for Ellington.
Tier 3, Lamar Miller, my favorite, Jerick McKinnon, Joique Bell, and Eddie Lacy.
Your BFF McKinnon's looking like a good play this week, but I like Eddie Lacy. He's only the 18th best back, but he's going up against New Orleans defense that gives up the 12th most points to fantasy running backs. Lacy's had 4 TDs the past 4 weeks and double-digit carries every game this season. He's eventually going to start, pushing the ball a little bit further ahead and getting more and more points. I think he's going to end the year at definitely a top 10 running back.
Lamar Miller without Moreno is definitely a solid option week in and week out. And this week, it's even better. He goes up against Jacksonville. They let up the 7th most of fantasy running backs. And then in Detroit, Joique Bell has been playing better than Reggie Bush. I know Bush has been injured, but even when he plays, Bell has looked better this season. And he got the best matchup of all. Atlanta is terrible against fantasy running backs. He has 18 carries and a TD each of his past 2 weeks, so he's getting to play. And Bush may not play. If he doesn't, that's even better for him. But even if Bush does, I like Joique Bell. Tier 4, Justin Forsett, Shane Vereen, Reggie Bush, and Ben Tate.
I think Shane Vereen's a great play this week. Ridley, did he get hurt or did he start fumbling it again last week?
He's done for the season.
He's done for the season. All right, so he's out for the year. That just means more touches for Vereen. Chicago gives up the 12th fewest points to fantasy running backs, but he catches the ball out of the backfield very well, and Brady likes to hit him in the open field. Sometimes he works out of the slot, similar to when Wes Welker was there. So Vereen's an interesting matchup, and I think he's going to put up big numbers the rest of the year.
Tate was a huge letdown last week versus Jacksonville. He only had 36 yards on 16 carries after 2 huge weeks, and he looked like he was one of the better fantasy backs. They're saying he may lose some time to, I think it's Isaiah Crowell.
Crowell, yeah, it's hard to say his name.
I don't see that happening. Ben Tate is a beast. He has a great matchup this week versus Oakland. They let up the 3rd most of fantasy running backs. I expect a big bounce back from him here.
Anytime you're going against Oakland, you got a chance for a big game because they're garbage.
Tier 5, Chris Ivory, Darren McFadden, Doug Martin, Alfred Morris, Mark Ingram, and Trent Richardson.
The interesting guy for me out of here is Darren McFadden. He's going up against the Cleveland team that gives up the 9th most points to fantasy running backs. McFadden's had double digits in PPR leagues the last 3 weeks, but the touches are on the low end. Cleveland's run game's really struggling now, so if he gets the touches, I think he gets the points.
Alfred Morris has been a letdown for a while now. He only has 124 yards total over the past 4 weeks. So right now, I'm trying to find another option. And maybe when RG3 comes back, he'll pick it up. But
yeah, it's tough for Morris, man. He's had Kirk Cousins and now Snake McCoy at quarterback. So would you respect the passing game at all, or would you put 12 men in the box? And I know there's not really 12 men on the field. It's a sarcastic joke here, but
it's understandable, yeah.
That's what I would do. Stack the box. Morris has got no chance. That's why he's struggling this year.
Tier 6. Trey Mason, Darren Sproles, Bishop Sankey, and Denard Robinson.
Darren Sproles could have a big week. He's going up against Arizona. I know they give up the fewest points to fantasy running backs. McCoy hasn't been what he was last year. The big thing with Sproles is he's always an option in the passing game. So even if teams shut down running backs fantasy-wise, Sproles isn't the prototypical running back, and he can still kill you in the passing game.
Trey Mason looks very good. I think he has 2 games under his belt now. He looked great in both games. Cunningham started last week, but Mason ended up doing the better job. He had 18 carries and scored. St. Louis's run game is in flux right now, but I think Trey Mason is going to be the one that comes out on top.
Yeah, it's strange with Jeff Fisher there that they don't have things going a little bit more organized in their run game. He's usually a no-nonsense coach. He knows what he wants. He gets guys in position he wants them to be in, and their running game has just been a disaster this year.
Well, Zach Stacy was a beast last year, so you thought you had your running back coming in, but he's been poop.
And real quick, interesting play here. Maybe not to actually play him, but just to watch this guy play. Denard Robinson, he had a big week last week for the Jags. Toby Gerhart has shown nothing all year and been hurt, now the last couple weeks. So just watch Robinson. If you want to have some fun and see some good football, this guy could break a big run.
Yeah, if you need a running back, you go pick him up. He's only owned in half the leagues.
Yeah.
And, it's still Jacksonville's offense, so you may not get huge points out of him, but he does have the upside. Tier 7, Jeremy Hill, Travaris Cadet, and Jonathan Stewart.
Jeremy Hill's going against Baltimore. They give up the 3rd fewest points to fantasy running backs. Cincinnati's ground game did nothing last week, and it's another tough matchup this week. Bernard got blasted last week, so if his ribs are hurting or, if he's just sore in general, you might see he'll get a couple more touches.
New Orleans has some problems in their backfield right now. They just got Ingram back. He didn't have a great week last week. Now, Pierre Thomas is hurt, and he's going to miss, and Curry Robinson is questionable, and he may miss the game too. So Cadet is supposed to see playing time this week, and he is expected to be heavily used in the passing game. That's the type of running back he is, and you got to love a running back used in the New Orleans Saints passing game.
Yeah, definitely. Look what Sproles did all those years.
Tier 8, Bernard Pierce, Bryce Brown, Bobby Rainey, and Anthony Dixon.
Mr. Booby Dixon. He's going up against the Jets. They give up the 9th fewest points to fantasy running backs. Booby's in line to become the starter with Spiller out and Fred Jackson out. He's going to be sharing time with Bryce Brown. I know you think Bryce Brown has the higher upside. I don't know. I may disagree slightly there. I think Booby might get it just because he's got a cooler nickname. Don't you think that the cooler nickname gives him the edge?
Well, that's why he's getting the start.
If you were a coach, don't you want to be able to just stand on the sideline and yell, "Booby! Hey, Booby!" Dude, that would be awesome.
That's
be the
probably why
thing
he's
ever.
getting the
That's
start.
That's why I would start him.
Bryce Brown does have the higher upside, and I expect him to come away with the better fantasy game.
Well, yeah, he may have the better fantasy game, but I thought we were playing the nickname game here.
Tier 9, move on. Isaiah Crowell.
Wait, breaking news, folks. Johnny Parlay says he's coming to work in an hour. We're going to time him and see if it's right. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
You did interrupt me.
I apologize. That was breaking news. I mean, our fans needed to know.
They just want to know who's next on the fantasy list.
All right.
Benny Cunningham, Anton Smith, and Roy Halu Jr.
So you can't even talk now. You're so excited, Mr.
You
Parlay.
totally screwed me up. I'm standing up.
Benny Cunningham's a good matchup. Maybe. He's going up against KC. They give up the 6th fewest points to fantasy running backs. Zach Stacy was benched last week. Trey Mason may be seeing some more touches. Cunningham may be getting the touches. Nobody really knows. If you're all the way down to these guys at running back, you're hurting all. You're pretty bad off. But it's a crapshoot between Mason and Cunningham. But if you take Cunningham and get lucky, maybe a big score.
You can call it lucky, but he actually has 56 points in PPR over his last 3 weeks, so he's getting it done. Whether
he's doing work, son.
Whether he starts or not, he's gonna get some playing time at least. Tier 10, whatever you want to call. What do you think this guy's name is, man?
Stephon
Taylor has a P in it.
Stephon. That's gangster for Steven.
Okay, so we got him. That is Arizona's backup running back. He actually had 12 carries last week and a TD. Chris Johnson, Steven Jackson, and Curry Robinson, who's questionable.
Chris Johnson's a tough play this week. The Jets' offense hasn't been what anybody expected. He hasn't been what anybody expected. He's going up against Buffalo. They give up the 2nd fewest points to fantasy running backs. Johnson did have 15 touches last week, but I think Chris Ivory's the better running back. So
by far.
I think as the year goes on, Johnson's carries are going to start to go down. So he's a scary option for me this week.
Yeah, you don't want any 4 of these running backs, but if you're in a 12-team league, running backs are
They're
gone.
thin, yeah.
So
you may have to play one of these guys on a bye week.
I don't know who I would go with. I don't know.
Is Steven Jackson even still alive? That poor bastard. He keeps getting hurt every day.
Yeah, he's losing touches. They got like 5 running backs in Atlanta that are seeing playing time, so he's pretty much worthless, but after these 4 players, there's nothing else out there, so you got to do what you got to do.
That's right.
2 stashes. Ryan Matthews is available in some leagues. Obviously, if you're playing Steven Jackson, you want to pick up Ryan Matthews and stash him on your bench. And Charles Sims from Tampa Bay, he's coming off the IR soon. He should return in Week 9. He's going to be a 3rd down back to start in Tampa Bay, and I don't see why he can't take playing time away from Doug Martin because he stinks.
That ends our running back segment for today. Thanks, Dash, for sitting in. Thanks, fans, for listening. You can follow us on Twitter, bet_the spread. Check us out on Facebook. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Spread. Any questions you have fantasy-wise, feel free to send them to us on Facebook or on Twitter. We're here to answer your questions 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's why I got Dash.
Do work.
Later.